And I believe we are live. Hey, hey there, everybody. Welcome to
Nice,
another
nice.
episode of the Optimist Guide. To my right, I guess, as always, is the Curtis York. I need to put emphasis on the, not just a Curtis York. He is the Curtis York, my good friend and fellow father down in the States. Welcome, welcome.
Happy to be here as always, my friend. Happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Just before we started in our little green room, we were talking about how busy we both have been. You've been deep into the new job and getting some new training and certifications in and such like that, which I think is just amazing and awesome.
Yeah, just trying to stay on top of everything and make sure that I'm taking care of the people that I love, and sometimes that requires a little extra work. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just happy for the opportunity to be able to have those types of situations and circumstances. So, I'm extremely grateful. But what didn't happen in the green room is you didn't get a chance to tell me what you were up to. So, what's going on, my friend?
You know what? I mean, a bunch of the same, like we've said in the past couple of streams, both of us got new jobs right around the same time. So I've just been eyeball deep into the training, getting things under my belt. Shortly after I joined the company that I joined, the company was bought up by another company. So we've actually been also going through this transition from one company to another. In fact, if you were to look beside me right now, I literally have three laptops sitting beside me. I have my personal one, I have my old company one, and I have my new company one that I have to use for certain things. So it's been a
Jeez.
lot to take up. It's like being the new person, but then being the new person all over again. So
Man.
yeah, it's been a lot. And then over on my other channel, I've been doing a little bit of a road trip with the kiddos. So been putting out some of that content and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a busy time. It's been a really busy time.
The interview was really great, by the way. I thought it was really cool that they went out of their way to make a new building look very, very, very old. So I thought
Yeah.
that that was a very nice touch. That was a lot of meticulous attention to detail to do that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. Like I said, we actually met that guy when I went with my mother to a theater that's nearby, a dinner theater, and he
I
was
remember
out.
that. Yeah. You
Yeah, he was
recorded
out.
that as well.
That's right. So he was out by the theater, telling everybody about his thing. So I mean, I was filming at the time, so I just filmed it, and then by the by, I said, we're doing the road trip. Could we come out to your B&B and just check it out? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, how much will it cost? And we're like, no cost. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. So we did an
Yeah,
interview,
right.
and we'll be doing a tour. They gave us a tour of the place as well, so that's going to be coming up in a bit here as well. And then we did the interview, so it was really neat getting an insight into what it takes to do that type of thing, because like there was nothing there. Like that piece of land was just a piece of land, and then they turned it into like their own little Victorian mansion type of deal. So it was very
But
it was very
everybody
cool.
says that they've been there before and they grew up there.
Yeah. Isn't that something? He can make something brand new that people just swear. And I guess that's the real genius of what he's done, is he's put something new in there that makes people feel like it's always been there.
Hmm.
So that's a genius.
Oh yeah,
So
I agree.
anyway, we are going
Are
to
you
I brought
drinking
out
coffee this late?
no, I'm drinking tea, which I guess is just as bad.
Yeah,
But
depending
I
on the
brought
amount
out
of caffeine that's in there, right?
That's okay. We're 2 hours earlier, so we're okay. I still got
I
another two
guess.
hours to work it off.
I guess.
But yeah, so we're gonna dig right into it. Big welcome to anybody who is in the chat and watching us today. Really appreciate you guys showing up and watching us and learning with us. Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic, and it's not one that I'm 100% sure of where this is going to go and how this is going to get ferreted out, because it's one of those, they say, like, when you're talking with somebody new, and I will put the audience out there as they're new to us, right? Hi there, how you doing? They say you shouldn't start off with talking about politics. You shouldn't talk about religion. Well,
Mm.
I am way too afraid to talk about politics these days.
But religion is safer, huh?
but but we'll talk about religion. We'll talk about religion in the form of blended families and how you deal with possible differences in how you see religion, see God, see spirituality, and all that kind of stuff, and how that transmits down to your family. Especially if you have like parents that are very religious versus a family that isn't, or vice versa, or however that may look. So that's what we're talking about today.
What a topic.
What a topic. So, just to give my personal, kind of recap here, and if you've watched my other channel or you've known me a little bit, I actually used to be a pastor. So I have a unique kind of view on this, because when I say I used to be a pastor, that is to say that I am not any longer. And that's not to say I'm not a Christian anymore, or I don't believe in God anymore, but I do have some definite thoughts on Christianity and how that outflows in the world today. I used to be a pastor, and I stopped being a pastor just before my ex left. That was one of the major shifts that happened in my life. We left a church that was quite unhealthy, and since then I have, I've been, I will say, I've been hurt by the church, to put it quite frankly, right? I have not had the best experience coming out of having been a pastor, having dealt with people's life issues and problems and all of that, and kind of doing my best to having my own life issues, and essentially feeling like I was kind of dropped by the church. Right. It was, there was lots of prayers and all that kind of stuff in the beginning, but once things kind of dragged on, then it kind of waned and waned and waned, because it wasn't interesting anymore. Right. Which is, one of the things that unfortunately Christian churches have a big problem with, is they'll pray for you in the beginning, and they'll pray for you for weeks and so on and so forth. But once they don't see the miracle, then it kind of gets boring, and they kind of move on and so on and so forth. But we can get more into that later. But I live in a position now where especially my oldest son feels very hurt by the church. He doesn't go to church anymore, and my youngest ones, I mean, I still pray with my youngest ones and such like that, but we don't actually go to a church anymore. But then my juxtaposition to that is my parents, who are also divorced, are also very religious. So my dad is very religious, my mother is very religious, and so I have to juxtapose my, not that I'm not Christian, but I'm not subscribing to the church at the moment, and how that's working versus their kind of more ardent support of the church. Right. That feeling that I should be going and taking my kids to a building to hear a pastor speak about God, that type of thing. So yeah, that's where I sit right now in the kind of religious spectrum. I would say spiritual Christian, but not necessarily religious is
Mhm.
where I would put it. So yeah, what about you though? Where do you sit on the spectrum?
I think I'm along the lines with you. I grew up in the church. I remember when I was very little, my mom used to take me all the time. I remember, wanting to get baptized very young. My grandparents were very heavy in the church because my mom worked, and it was very easy for my grandparents to just take me with them. You
Hmm.
know, um, but as you get older and you learn more about people and you learn more about humans and, the expectation of what religion is in comparison to what you see on a day to day basis, then you kind of lose that. It's almost like finding out Santa's not real. You just lose that appeal. And
Hmm.
not necessarily in any specific religion, but more so in the organized religion as far as the church. And then that's when you come into finding your own spirituality, which I'm a big history buff, so
Yeah.
how we're talking right now, hundreds of years ago we'd have been deemed heretics and we'd have been
100%. Yes.
tortured. But
Yes.
I think that religion definitely has a place. I think a lot of people need religion more than others. For example, people that don't know how to self-regulate, people that don't know how to treat people, people that don't have discipline within themselves. They may need a stronger sense of religion so that they have codes and guides in order to maneuver through this thing called life. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of us find out how to do that on our own. And through that, we create our own, I hate to say religions, but we create our own spiritual practices within a uniform spiritual practice. So I would say that's kind of where I live at. I don't attend church, or, I've been to churches, and my wife, she comes from a very, very, very religious background. I don't know what it is about the continent of Africa and how
Oh, yes.
tied they
Oh,
are
yes.
into church. My wife, for those who don't know, my wife's parents are from Liberia. She's American. She was born here in Jersey, but they are from Liberia. So I would say that they have a deeper tie to organized religion than a lot of us do, and a lot of that comes from resentment and just disappointment. Just looking
Mhm.
at the way that the world is, particularly here in America, and how we're treated, and then it's like, well, you know, it just kind of doesn't add up. So
Mhm.
I am I'm religious, I guess you could say. I believe, and I know that there is a being that created all of this. What that looks like and how to define it, I would say it kind of varies. And I've studied a lot. I'm one of the few people that I know that have actually read the Bible. I've actually read the Quran. I've
Mhm.
looked into Buddhism, and I've read a lot of those types of texts.
Mhm.
I've never read the Torah, but from my understanding, at least, it is just the Old Testament. So I don't
First 5
really.
books, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've also read other books such as the Book of Enoch, and
Mhm.
I've done a lot of research, and the
Good,
more I
good, good.
read, the more I see a lot of things are similar, and I think the general concept and the general idea of everything is the same. And I'll say this, and then I'll land the plane. I think a lot of people tend to use the church and religion as a whole as a networking thing. And, it's more so to get into rooms and get into doors. And I think it's all about the intent that you have and how you use whatever to believe in that source. That source. That's what I say. I'm trying to be politically correct.
No, do you know what? We can be real here. It's all right. So I
Yeah.
feel like if
Yeah.
we have started this thing with being real about relationships, we can be real about religion too. And I mean, I've got,
Yeah.
some thoughts and such like that. And funny story on the whole religion thing. And actually, like, because as you know, I've been writing a book on separation and divorce.
Great book.
And
Great, great, great book. Man, man.
And as a side note, it is getting closer to coming out. So I finally got the ISBN number for it.
That's
So
big.
it's an official thing.
That's
I've just
big.
got to finish up the last couple of chapters, and then go through some editing and such like that, and then it will come out. Hopefully, I'm hoping by the new year I'll be in a position to be like, hey, get the book. But I also
Right.
started around the same time. I also started writing another book, and I'd forgotten about it, right? But I had I had started writing another book, and it's called STUF or STFU. Sorry, How to Be a Christian Without Being a Total Asshole.
Mm.
And the premise of it is that Christianity today, especially in the deep evangelical, I'm using quotes because I understand and realize that not every Christian is the same and not every church is the same. But on a whole, when you see, these, churches going at, the LGBT community, or, other communities, or even the abortion fight, right? And they judge people and just judge people so heavily, right? And they got to get in there and have laws against this and laws against that and laws against the other, and you think, what they end up doing is making us as Christians on the whole look more like jerks than like the loving people that we're supposed to. And if you read the Bible, right, the entire point of the Bible is to teach you how to love God and love others. Those are two things that you're supposed to do, just two, right? Love God, number one, and love others, right? And it's that loving others that I feel we tend to fall flat on. Loving your neighbor. And we're good when our neighbor is like us, right? When our neighbor either looks like us or goes to the same church as us or has the same lifestyle as us, we're good at loving our neighbor. As soon as our neighbor is different than us or acts in a way that we don't personally necessarily agree with, I find that whole love your neighbor thing starts to fall belly flat, right? And it falls
So let's get
belly
into
flat real
that.
quickly. Yeah, go
Let
for it.
me ask then. So, with a religion, there are supposed to be do's and don'ts outside
Yep.
of just, love everyone and love your neighbor, love God. There are strict things that you do and you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
At what point does a religion stop being a religion when you accept everything and you don't have any lines drawn? I think that I
So
think that's a question that the church has to answer and a lot of people have to answer. So how do you see that?
yeah, so and here's the thing, right? And the Bible is fairly clear about this. And I'm not going to go deep. I'm not going to start quoting Bible verses and such like that because I tend to think that turns people more off than anything else. But Jesus was pretty clear and God was pretty clear when he said vengeance is mine, right? He said, I will do that. I will do the judging, right? What I want you as my people to concentrate on is loving others. You do that. You show me, because people don't see me. They don't see a physical God person who is on high that they can see with their eyes or hear with their ears. All they have to know about God is what I personally am doing as his quote unquote representative. So he said this: you be an amazing representative. You tell them about how I love them and you show them what that love looked like. I'll take care of the judging, right? I'll take care of the judging. As God, I'll do that. Right? If they're doing the wrong thing, they will get it and they will be judged for that. But your job as a Christian is just be as loving, as amazing, as nice, as accommodating, as whatever positive person that you can be in this world. And standing there at abortion clinics saying you're a murderer, or holding up signs that saying God hates fags, is not showing love, right? It's
Can you
showing
say
hate.
that? I think you're gonna get a shadow ban.
But I'm saying it's wrong, right? It's wrong. We should, as a Christian, that's stuff that we should not be doing, because all that does is it turns people away, not only from us, but because we're doing it as Christians, we're turning people away from God. Right? And our job isn't to turn people away from God. Our job is not to be the gatekeepers of heaven. Right? That's not our job. Our job is to be the doormen, the ones who open the door and just say, we want as many people in here as possible. You come in, you come in, you come in, you come in, you come in. Now, it's God's job to be like, that thing that you're doing, not so cool with that. And if you look at even Jesus's example, what did he do? When he found the prostitute, am I allowed to say prostitute at least? I don't know.
No, you said it twice now, so I mean,
but when Jesus found the prostitute, everybody else was
three
like,
times.
stone her, right? They're like, stone her, kill her. She deserves it, right? And according to the laws of the time, that's exactly what she deserved. And what did Jesus do? He said, nah, I'm going to forgive you, right? Now go and sin no more, right? He didn't hold up his sign that says God hates prostitutes, fourth time, right? he didn't say, oh my gosh, as God's representative here on earth, I hereby condemn you and everybody like you. And I'm going to make sure that, the Romans write new laws against prostitution and this and that and the other. I'm going to make sure that we get into the Senate and we're going to make sure that we get into the House of Commons. And by Jove, by 4 years from now, I am going to be president of the Middle East so I can make sure that no more prostitutes are on our streets. He didn't do that.
Ooh, you're getting into politics.
Right?
You said
He
Joe.
and this is the thing, and this is where I dip my foot into politics, because church has dipped his foot into politics. And you said you're a history person, and we're gonna get back on track here, and we're gonna bring this back into family. But since you brought it up, we're gonna dip into here, right? Because the church has dipped itself into politics. There are pastors right now on a Sunday at this time of day that are essentially preaching, telling their people how to vote. Right? There are pastors and churches that are specifically endorsing one candidate or another. So the church has gotten into politics. And here is the thing. Every time the church gets into politics, bad things happen. Bar none, every time. Right? I'll sit down at my little desk on the side of the street and say, prove me wrong. Right? But every time that church gets into politics, church gets into power plays and all that kind of stuff, bad things happen. Right? Why do we have the Crusades? Right, because the church got into power, right? And it got into power through the kings, of the time, and the kings of the time were able to say, for the glory of God, we're going to go kill all the Muslims. Are you kidding me? That had nothing to do with for the glory of God. It had to do for the glory of the gold and the riches that they saw there and they wanted, right? It was all about power. Right? Why do we have what do you call it? Shoot. The Spanish Inquisition. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Right? Power plays. Every time, whenever the church gets into these political struggles or these power struggles, bad things happen. Every time, period. Right? We have to get out of it, right? We should be teaching people just love others, love God, love others. Do those two things. Stop there. Full stop. Right? Don't do anything else. Just love God and love others. And stop there. Right? That's my piece. Okay. That's that's my piece. But let's bring it back into family. So you were saying that your wife's family and your extended family are a bit more into religion than you are. So how do you navigate that? Do you ever get a little bit of pressure, like, hey, why aren't you taking your kids to Sunday school or whatever, or hey, it's Easter, bring them out, or Christmas, bring them out, that kind of thing? Like, where do you
I would say yeah, to a certain degree, but we're really big on boundaries.
Mhm.
And just I think that kind of transcends everything. I mean, boundaries and respect. It's like,
Mhm.
if we don't show up somewhere, we don't do something, we don't need to be reminded that we weren't there. We know we weren't there. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing, and that is definitely a lot of patient discussions. Patience.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I hate to sound like a broken record because I feel like every time we do this, I come on here and I'd say it's just patience. But um, patience is a resource that I think is heavily underappreciated.
Mhm.
And just being patient, persistent, and consistent with what you say and what you stand on, and setting boundaries. Again, it's not exciting. It's not, oh man, this is just a magic secret code that you just put in the bottle and you sell it and you mark it and write books about it. No, no, no shade, but just you know, it's like it's just so
Ah.
simple that a lot of times it gets overlooked. Just setting boundaries and standing on those boundaries and being respectful. You don't always have to agree with someone to respect how they feel. You
Mhm.
can disagree respectfully. And I think that kind of goes along with what you were saying earlier about loving everybody.
Mhm.
You can love everyone and you can respect everyone without agreeing with them all the time, because nobody agrees 100% with everything everybody does all the time.
Mhm.
So I think that's the biggest thing for us. What about you?
Kind of the same thing. And I mean, like I said, I have a bit of a harder time with this simply because I used to be a pastor and my parents were very deeply, especially my father was very deeply invested into I have a son who is a pastor. And so now, they have this feeling because they know that I have, some feelings of hurt towards God and some feelings of hurt towards the church, right? They know that. And their feeling is if you have some feelings of hurt towards God and you're not going to church, then you must have abandoned Christianity, which nothing is further from the truth, right? I personally think that God is a big boy and God can handle me being a little bit miffed with him because the
Hold on,
last,
hold on, hold on. Let me say this. Don't
go
you think
for it.
it's weird how parents just always have to deal with extremes? It's either extremely this or extremely that. And it's like no matter how old you get, let us never
Mhm.
become those types of parents. Let me just say that. Let us never become those types of parents. That's all I had.
I hope not. I hope not. And it is funny, right? Because obviously you don't. And I mean I've tried to tell them that yes, I have some feelings of anger towards God, but here's the funny thing: you cannot be angry at something that you don't believe in, right?
Yeah.
You can't. Right? If I don't have a relationship with, let's say it's me and you, right? If we don't know each other, we have no relationship, and you do something, I'm not going to be mad at you. Why? Because it doesn't affect me none, right? Not at all. The only reason I could be
Mm, I don't know.
in in on a relational level, right? But the reason I would get mad at you for something is because we have some sort of relationship. Now, I
Right.
mean, and I heard your right, but you think about it this way, like I can be mad at a politician without having a direct relationship with them. Why? Because what they want to do may actually affect me. And that's where it is, right? That's where it is. Like like for instance, I don't have to be
I
mad at
mean, in terms of
RFK
a
because
politician, yes.
yeah. No, go for it. Go for it.
I mean, I think that a lot of people, and I don't know, let me know if this is going off on a tangent, but it kind of is going in the weeds, but I am going to push back because we need a little bit of excitement. Because I just sat up here and said, "Oh yeah, boundaries, guys." But yeah, I think you can not believe in something or someone, but still have vitriol towards them. Because I mean, if you look at the you have a lot of people who have never had interactions with certain groups or certain people, and they do have that animosity. And I think it applies because in a physical sense, yes, it's a legitimate person, but you don't have a relationship with that person. You don't know anything. Your relationship exists within only what you were told. So there can be a way that you can have an imaginary belief about something that you don't fully understand anything about. So maybe that's how your parents are looking at it. Like, say, for example, that one person that says, "Oh yeah, all black people are bad." Well, it's like, have you talked to a black person ever? Have
Mm,
you had a relationship with the black? Like, what are you basing this off of? You're basing it off of an idea that you heard from someone else. So
mhm.
maybe playing devil's advocate, they're saying that you personally, Michael, you don't have a relationship because, what they believe to be true and what should basically your relationship was a piggyback off of their relationship, and you didn't really have a relationship for yourself. You had a relationship because they wanted you to have a relationship.
Mm.
What would you say to
So,
that?
so first, let's go back to your example, like all black people are bad, right? Now, the person who believes
Mm-hmm.
that may or may not have had an actual encounter with somebody who is black, maybe, but they have been taught about
Right.
this and they believe in it, right? You can't believe that there isn't black people, so there is something there that you believe in, right? There's an entity there that you believe in. That is, black people are
Right.
there. Now, what you've been
Mm-hmm.
taught about this entity is where we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. So there is a thing there that you believe in, right? Here is black people, right? And I have been taught that
Mm-hmm.
this entity called black people are all bad, right? So there is something there that you are believing in, right? If you don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that black people exist, then you can't also
Right.
believe that they're bad, right? You can't believe something is bad if you don't believe in the
Mm-hmm.
thing itself. Right now, if somebody was to say, I don't believe
Right.
in being gay, right? Or, yeah, let's say somebody said, I don't believe in being gay. Okay, I can have that conversation because what
Oh
they're
man,
saying
we're
is,
gonna get
I
so
don't believe,
shadow
I know.
banned.
But what they're saying is, I don't believe in that entity or that thing or that, or how that can come about. They don't believe in that. Now, we can argue that that's like saying, I don't believe in the wind. We can argue that, right? But they don't believe in the entity. Now, you can't say I don't believe in being gay and all gay people are bad. You can't do both of those because if you don't
Right.
believe in them, then you can't believe they're bad, right? In the same way, I can't say I don't believe in God and I'm angry at him. Can't do both of those things because if I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in God, then I can't be angry in something I don't believe in. I can only be angry in something that somehow implicitly
Mm-hmm.
I believe in, right? Just like you said with black people. If somebody says
Mm-hmm.
all black people are bad, you have to believe that there are black people, right? That's the thing that you're believing in, right? Now, what you're taught
Mm-hmm.
around the entity is completely up for debate, but you have to believe in the entity to have a feeling towards it.
Mm-hmm. You
That makes
practice
sense?
that one, huh?
So
That was good.
back to
That
my
was good.
parents and back to my parents and back to my family, right? I i can have feelings of anger or hurt towards God, just like Job did in the Bible, right? Job had everything taken away from him, and I feel very much like I had a very Job-like experience, right? Because there was a time where my body was,
Mm.
I was in chronic pain, right? I was going through this divorce. I had lost pretty well everything, right? There was a time when I wasn't even able to see my children or anything like that. So there was that time where I felt very much like Job. And Job had feelings of anger towards God, so much so that his wife said, "Why don't you just curse him so you can die?" And he said, "That's a step too far, right? I'm not going to curse God so I can die." But he did go up to the mountain. He said, "Lord, why? Why did you allow this to happen?" Right? You can't have that sort of conversation with God if you don't have some feeling of injustice, right? If Job felt
Mm-hmm.
at all times like God was just being just and perfectly fair and no problem and whatever not, then there's no way that he would go up to God and say, "Why'd you allow this to happen?" Right? I mean, his friends constantly told him, "Hey, you
Mm-hmm.
must have done something really, really bad for God to be doing this to you." And he said, "No, I didn't." Right? "I am blameless. I didn't do anything. I don't know why God is doing this to me." That's the entire book of Job, right? That's the entire book of Job, is his friends telling him how
Yes.
bad he
Mm-hmm.
must have been, and and him saying, "No, I am not that bad." Right? So in the same way, right? I feel, I've had those feelings of, "Hey, God, why? Why are you allowing this to happen? Why have you let this happen to me? What did I do?" Right? And I can only have those feelings if I believe in God still, right?
So let me ask you this. Have you had that exact conversation that we just had with your parents? And if so, how did they receive it? More so your father, because it sounds like he's the one.
Do you know what? Me and my dad have a really good relationship. So, and I mean, he has his own feelings on the church and stuff like that, and he has his own reasons for not going to church, which is, very, very, very funny as well. So we are able to get into these conversations and feel and talk fairly deeply about it. So, he actually understands more than maybe my mother does, actually, funnily enough.
Really?
Um, yeah, yeah. So, and I mean, for
Mm.
context, my mother is Seventh-day Adventist, so we're like twice removed. So she's, she
Whoa.
she doesn't like the fact that she doesn't like the fact that when we were going to church, we were going to church on Sunday and not Saturday, the Sabbath. And then also now a second
Wow.
step is that now that we're not going to church at all.
I'm surprised she still talks to you.
Well, she's still my mama. But so I've had these
Wow.
conversations, and I've had to say, "Hey, you know what? This is just where we're at right now." And I mean, bringing it back into my family, like I told you, my oldest son, he has some definite feelings of hurt towards the church because he was right in the midst of everything. Right? He was 10. He was 10 years old when stuff sort of hit the fan. So he has very vivid and clear memories. And right now, he's in a place where he wouldn't even go back to church. Even if I said, "Hey, we're going to church," he wouldn't go. Right? He wouldn't. My younger one,
Wow.
maybe, but my older one, I know for a fact he wouldn't. He's told me, right? "If you go back, there's no way I'm going." And I understand that,
Man.
and I have to let him get to his own place of healing without forcing it, right? And I've been told, my parents have told me, my girlfriend has said, "Take them back to church, take them back to church," and I'm like, you know what? I have to allow them to have their own space for healing without forcing it, especially because their mom also does not take them to church, right? And also has her own feelings of hurt and such like that towards the church, which are, I will say, also completely justified, right? Because we left when we were
Yeah.
still together, we left a very unhealthy church. It was unhealthy for us as a family. It was very much unhealthy for her. And, I know she'll never see these and probably never listen to them, but that is one thing that I'm very sorry for, is having put her in that position for the 5 years that we were in that church. It wasn't
Man.
a good place to be. And that is one thing that I'm definitely sorry for, right? In our relationship, I could go back and change one major thing. I would definitely change that. But because of that, I have to, like I said, I have to give my kids, the space to heal without forcing them back into something that can make them feel very uncomfortable. Now, like I said, I still pray with them every night. right? The younger two for sure. I still pray with them every night, and we still have that little bit of a routine and such like that. But I'm not forcing them into religion because they've been hurt in a very specific way, right? And it's like, it's like if you've had an industrial accident, right? Let's say you hurt yourself on the bandsaw, right? Well, the next time that you're in a situation where you're in a shop, you might think twice before you go back and you operate the bandsaw again, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same sort of thing, right? You've got to take, just like you got to take your time and take a few deep breaths before you're going to go and operate the bandsaw again, right? You've got to take a few breaths, metaphorically now, and and get yourself into a place where you would feel even ready to go back to a church, into that regime of essentially being, told this is what a person says God wants you to act, right? Which is what church is, right? There's one person, the pastor, and he expounds onto you how he feels that God wants you to act on a daily basis.
Man, man, man. Well, I'm gonna veer off script again and reel me back in when it's time. But I think, I can't say enough just how much I admire your resiliency and, the fact that you're willing to chart your own course. And, when I hear you say things like, if there's one thing I could change, just the emotional maturity and the ability to process everything that you went through and come up with those types of realizations, and then have that forgiveness for your ex with everything that you guys went through, and how a decision that you made together, granted, affected you all both. Just that ownership that you take, I really admire that.
Oh, thank you. And I mean, like I said, I don't have a large amount of ill will directly towards my ex, except for things that have been done that have affected the children, right? That's where my beef comes with most things, right? I truly wish that we had been able to kind of separate in an amicable way, kind of like you and yours did, and be able to just, have conversations and be amicable or civil or whatever. And I'm not in that situation, and that's unfortunate. I take no joy in it at all, right? I don't take any joy of it in it. But what I do hope is that, through the having gone through it, and through the talking about it like we are, and through the writing about it, that I can help somebody else, to who is in this situation, to come out of it less hurt, less damaged, and more importantly, come out of it with, especially if they have children that are left damaged. Because I mean, I'm an adult, I'm a big boy. Anything that, happens to me, I can deal with it, right? It's a lot harder when you have kids that are right in the middle of it, and kids get torn. And, we have the society that we have today in large part because we have so much divorce, so much separation, and so many children who are caught between parents. They don't know who's right, who's wrong. They don't know who's the good one, who's the bad one. They don't know any of this, and they grow up as these torn children, right?
Hold
And
on, hold on, hold on, hold
that
on.
means,
We should do an episode about that in itself. Just being, because your parents were divorced and my parents were
mhm,
divorced. How
mhm,
the effect that that has on us, as
absolutely.
and how we parent and how that's affected our parenting styles.
Mhm.
Again, I'm sorry to go off on another tangent, but I
No,
think
do
that
it.
right there would definitely be another one. And here we are playing producer in real time, but I think that would be a good one too.
Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, like I said, because I mean, torn kids just kind of grow up into torn adults, right? And then we just kind of keep repeating this cycle, and it's definitely repeating, this cycle of hurt children, and it's not a good thing at all. right? It's definitely something that has affected me, and I know it's going to affect my children. And one of my aims in life is to try my best to get my kids to a place in life where when they're getting into relationships, they can get into healthy relationships. That's, thing number one. Can we get them to recognize what a healthy relationship is and be in those type of relationships? That would be the best. But number two, if they're not, is to be able to recognize that as well and work through that in hopefully healthier ways than I did, right? So that these,
Same.
so that these cycles can kind of change and get back into kind of, where, it used to be the norm that when you got married, you stayed married, right? You until death do you part, right? And that was literally it,
Yeah.
right? So you have, older generations where they're married up until they literally die, they're 30, 40, 50 years of marriage or whatever not, and that's admirable because there is no perfect relationship. If they've gotten that far, that means they have come through fights, they have come through disagreements, they have come through trials and tribulations, and they found ways past it without just saying peace out, right? And that's an
Yeah.
admirable thing. That's a good thing, right? I think nowadays we are far too easy to just say, I'm out. Right, that's it. I'm not going to try and find a solution to this. I'm not going to try and work through it. I'm just going to leave, right? And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And then, also, and I'm gonna say this and then we probably want to get back to the script, but a lot of them they
It's
got
been good.
married at like 19, well, 14, 15. Like they got married so much younger and they stayed
Hmm.
married so much longer. So clearly they had some sort of wisdom, or maybe it was that base, or maybe it was the church. I don't know. But they got married younger and they stayed married far longer than we do today. So clearly they knew
Hmm.
something that we don't. So yeah.
Yeah.
All
Well, and
right,
I
let's get
think,
back on script.
sure. And I agree. I agree with you. I really do. Because I think that, there was a different social construct back then that really pushed people to find solutions to issues. And nowadays, and it comes back to the religion thing, it comes back to society, it even comes back to politics, right? We don't have this I can talk, you can talk, we can have a difference of opinion, and we can still be okay with each other. We don't have a lot of that anymore, right? If I have an opinion and you have a different opinion, then we must be enemies, right? Is the way the world seems to work right now. And that's really unfortunate, right? And it's seeped its way into everything, right? It's seeped its way into everything. And that's unfortunate. But let's let's bring it back in because we're at 10 minutes to 6 anyway here. But let's just talk really quickly about finding some common ground. And I think both of our situations seem to be fairly similar, in the fact that we have some religious belief, right? But we don't, kind of go overboard on it. I know some people wouldn't say overboard. That's just bored. going to
Right.
going to church is just right here. Going overboard is different. But but
Mhm.
how do you? I mean, I guess the question is, if you were to going to give advice to somebody else, that is in a different situation, that has some different religious beliefs between either the sides of the family or the extended family or whatever not, what would you tell them?
Um, First of all, you have to figure out if it's worth being in a relationship with that person. Um, because kind of like what you said, where we are culturally, and I think it's just a world thing, if you aren't on the same team, then you're enemies. It's not that you two are in the same sport, for example. So if you look at football, whether it's American football or football soccer, as we call it, at the end of the day, there may be opposing teams, but they're all a part of the same league.
Hmm.
And it seems like today, if there's a disagreement, it's like you play soccer and we play basketball. It's like we don't even have the same rules and parameters anymore. It's like we're just totally on totally different opposite ends of the spectrum. So
Hmm.
I would say, if that's something that you have to take into consideration to determine if it's even worth pursuing a relationship with seriously. And then if you do decide to move forward after understanding that, then you just have to know that there are going to be a lot of difficult battles. There's going to be a lot of tough conversation, a lot of uncomfortable conversations.
Hmm.
And within that, hopefully you can find some sort of compromises that make it worth it, because there's going to be a lot of battles.
Hmm.
And I would say, the biggest thing again is just figuring out, you know, how strong that bond is and if it's even worth going down that road. I wouldn't discourage, and I don't know. I'm not really big on giving advice because I don't really think I'm qualified. But
Hmm.
you know, just what I think, my opinion. I would much rather call it my opinion than advice. Is yeah, figure out if that is a road that you want to go down, and if you do want to go down that road, then you need to have something outside of whatever that disagreement is that you two can get back to, that is home base, where it's,
Hmm.
no matter what, there's certain things that we won't say or do out of respect for each other and love for each other, regardless of what we feel or what we agree on or what we believe or what we don't believe. We know first that we will respect each other and we won't say anything to disrespect the other person.
Hmm.
And by proximity, their beliefs. So yeah, that's what I got. What about you?
Fair enough. I would say something similar. And I mean, you hit it on the head, right? If you're going to get into a relationship with somebody, right, you need to have a discussion, especially as the relationship gets deeper, as to where they're at religious wise, right? I mean, if you're going to, if you're a Protestant and they're a Catholic, you're going to have to know that there's going to be some differences, right? And how are you going to deal with them? Right? If they're Jewish, right, and you're thinking about having kids, right, there's going to be some differences there, right, and how that, and what's going to happen there, right, if but even more than that, once you're in a situation where you're in a relationship that has split, right, that's also, if possible, a conversation to be had, right, if you've got one side that isn't religious and one side that is, how are you going to deal with that with your kids, right? You have to be able to have those conversations. But barring that as well, you also have to be grounded in your own convictions, and you have to know what is right and know what is wrong, and you have to stand on that too, right? You have to be able to say, okay, I know that X, Y, and Z is the right thing to do for my children, right? Our children, whatever. And at least while they're with me, I'm going to do what is right. If we can find some common ground and we can kind of find a way to make that happen, but especially when it comes to religion, right? If there's like a religious side and a non-religious side, are you going to find common ground? No, that common ground usually ends up being, okay, well, we won't do it at all, right? Which is also unfortunate, right? So you have to be able to, to say, what, I know what's right for my family, for us, and so on and so forth, and that's what we're going to do. And there's nothing wrong with being bold and being strong in what your convictions are. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
Man, that's good. I like it.
Cool, cool. Well, we are coming up to near the end,
Where do we
but
go
as
from here,
always,
man?
I want to give I want to give a little bit of time to for you to talk about what you've got going on in your channel and such like that, and then we'll talk about what's coming up next month. So what you got going on in
Okay.
Yorktown?
Um, I have, believe it or not, a couple videos that I actually need to upload. So I'll be getting those out. I'm actually working on a couple more interviews that'll be releasing probably within the next week or two. I'm actually thinking about starting another channel
Okay, okay.
focused on the certifications that I'm studying right now. So for those of you who don't know, I work in the construction industry and we build $1 million homes. Did I ever show you some of the houses that we've been working on?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures. But anyways,
Okay.
being at such a high level as far as the types of homes that we build, I decided to get some certifications to kind of be able to play at a higher level. And what I've noticed is there aren't a lot of us. And when I say us, I mean Black Americans. No offense, Mike.
Mm.
What I can say, I was just looking. There's a lot. Now, what I will say, shout out to you, Mike. There are a lot of Black people from the continent of Africa that they're smashing it out the water. They have so many certifications, it's insane. But
Hmm.
I was looking for someone that would be like, yo, 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 this is what you need to. Nah, let me stop. But someone that would be able to break down the terminology and information in ways that I would find a little bit more palatable. And I didn't see it, and so I'm like, I can do this. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking about doing that channel, just breaking down some of these terms and some of the practices and studying tips and methods because it's very intense. I mean, obviously I'm not making videos or anything like that much at any time or anything. It's pretty much devoted to coming home, studying, putting the kids to bed, and rinse, wash, and repeat. So I said
Yeah,
all of that to say there may be a new channel in the fold dealing
very cool.
specifically with the types of certification. So yeah, we'll
That's
see.
very cool. Very, very cool. I can't wait to see that actually. That's very exciting. It's a little more of an educational focus type of deal,
Yeah,
which I think is
definitely.
very
We
good. Because you're
going.
an educator, man. You got those roots. So
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna niche it down, as they say, and see what
yeah.
happens.
Yeah, and that's very cool. I mean, I love
What
seeing
about
like
you?
your talents kind of come full circle, which is kind of cool. On our side, oh well, I've still got more road trip coming up. We kind of split our road trip into two, actually. So we did a bit of road trip, and then we kind of came back, and then we did another bit of road trip. So I'm actually well behind in editing. I actually didn't put a video out this weekend because I'm just well behind. But we've got more of that coming up. And then it's going to get into winter time here, so that's going to be more indoor stuff. So, I'm going to be looking at what we can do for more indoor stuff. And then we're kind of getting towards the end where next year we're going to be gearing up. I'm hoping to take the kids to Jamaica.
Oh man,
So
nice.
that's going to be the like big thing coming up. So we may take a little bit of a dip as far as things that cost, so I can put those funds towards the next trip and such like that. But fortunately, I've got family in Jamaica, so that helps bring down the cost a fair bit because I know that we've got places to stay and such like that. So that won't be too bad. So yeah, that's what we've got coming up in the next little bit. I'm hoping to do, just like you started doing more interviews, I'm actually hoping to do, especially with the places that we go for activities, to do more interviews with the owners and kind of get small businesses a bit more highlighted around. So that's one of the things that we, kind of our more winter projects.
Great minds.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing over on my other channel, which is MNTV Family. So yeah, that's what we've got coming on. And then next month, I am working on a special guest. So me and you have been talking and doing our thing, which is very, very cool. And, we started talking about getting some other perspective and such like that. So next month, we are looking at adding another voice to this, doing an interview with a good friend of ours. Online, he is called Black Star Exotics, and you will see him rearing and breeding bulldogs and such like that. And he is also a single dad in that kind of situation. So we're going to have him on and we're going to chat with him about his unique circumstances and, just widen the conversation and talk more about this kind of stuff and help more people, I hope. And, just do that thing. That's what we're going to do. So stay tuned for next month where we, add some more voices to this and have a deeper conversation.
Very excited about that one. Very excited about that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think, and I think it's gonna be pretty insightful as well. I think so. Yeah, looking forward to that. He's got some unique circumstances that are different from both of our circumstances too, because spoiler alert, he actually has his kid full time. So
Yeah.
he's got so that's different because most guys don't. So so that's definitely going to be something different, something to talk about and see how he handles that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. And really, really, really great guy, man. Always
Mm.
talking positive and just, good energy. I think the people will enjoy that one. So I'm definitely excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. But that brings us right to the end, 6:01. So we did it right on an hour, almost perfectly. So we've got this down to a science, man. We got this format going, which
Yeah.
is good. I'm really happy about that. As always, it has been a pleasure, Curtis. Can't wait to do this again next month. And to those who are out there watching this, stay positive. You can do this. You got this. And we'll keep the conversation going. Facebook page, we've got the Optimist Facebook page, and of course you can put your comments in the comments below and such like that as well. Give the video a like, subscribe, all those YouTube things, and otherwise, I guess have a good night.
Yeah, man. Thanks for watching.
Bye now.
Take care.